Supposed to introduce Harry Reid, but I don't think Harry Reid needs any introductions. So, the Democratic leader, your senator and member of Congress since 1982. Senator, before we get into Nevada and the politics in 2016, Stephen Ginsburg and Jim were just up here talking about our Washington Post reporter, Jason, the conviction, and I guess one of the things that we want to try and figure out, you've been a real big supporter of the Iran deal, helped really assure that it was ratified in the Senate, not formally ratified, but it was upheld. Can we trust the Iranian government?
Well, I think something that's interesting. I learned today that the conviction actually took place a couple months ago. They just announced it today. Mm-hmm. So I would hope that in the same breath they announced he had been found guilty, they also announced there's ability for him to appeal. So I would hope, with all the work that's been done between the two countries, actually has been a couple of years, that the appeal will amount to something. I'm going to weigh in on that. I'm, of course, going to write a letter to the president of Iran and tell him that this is what should happen.
Okay. You're optimistic that we'll be able to get...
I'm cautiously optimistic. I think it's the best thing for Iran, and it's damn sure the best thing for us.
Okay. All right, let's get right into 2016 politics. You have long said great things about Secretary Clinton. Are you ready to formally endorse her right here in front of this big crowd?
Well, I, of course, have great affection for the Clintons. President Clinton's presidency was certainly one of the best in the history of the country, with the creation of jobs, 22 million jobs, and all the good things that happened during his presidency. And I served in the Senate with Hillary. She was a very good senator. She was a tremendous Secretary of State. I also, of course, have served in the Senate with Bernie Sanders, and Bernie has been a fine member of my caucus. Jim Webb was one of the crucial votes in our health care bill. I can't forget all the many good things he did, not for me as much as he did for the country. Lincoln Chafee, he should have followed my advice a long time ago. I tried to get him to switch when he was in the Senate. He almost did, but he didn't. And Governor O'Malley has been to Nevada, I don't know how many times. So I think the world of all of them. And last time we had caucuses here, I didn't endorse till after the caucuses. So I'm going to look things over and do it when I feel it's the appropriate time.
Okay, so we might get an endorsement before the caucus, but you may
Not
also...
tonight.
Not tonight. Ah, darn it. You mentioned Senator Sanders. Over the weekend, he was on TV doing the Sunday show circuit, and he was asked a question about whether or not he was a capitalist, and his response was that he was a democratic socialist. Does it worry you at all, an answer like that, and is that a winning formula?
All I know about Bernie Sanders is he's been a good member of the Senate. He helped me tremendously with the health care bill. I was worried about him, but he was one of my big advocates we had for the health care bill when we finally had it drafted. He has been a good member of Congress, and I think all this name calling, if we look at what's been going on with the Tea Party and all the confusion the Republicans have had, let's just stop the name calling and try to talk about people, what a good job they do or what a bad job they do. Let's not name calling. I don't know what a democratic capitalist is anymore. I don't know what all these names mean, and I'm not for name calling. So, although once in a while I do a few names myself, I try not to.
Name calling. You've had your share of saying some funny things about people.
I'm trying to reform.
You're trying. Is this what happens in retirement?
I'm not retired. I have 15 months.
All right.
I got to be in my. I have to be in my best behavior.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. You played a pretty key role working with the DNC back in 2006 and 2007 to help move Nevada and the caucus from that middle of the pack where sort of nobody paid attention to it up to the fourth slot. And I was here in 2008 for that epic primary between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. How much did that help galvanize Democratic politics here over the next 4 or 5 years?
Paul, I had been a student of government for a long, long time. And I was always terribly upset about how we were choosing our presidents. You go to New Hampshire, there are not any minorities there and nobody lives there. You go to Iowa and there are few people there, but again, it's a place that does not demonstrate what America's all about for a lot of different reasons. Nevada does that. We are a state that is representative of what America's all about. And I think that bringing in South Carolina, bringing in Nevada makes a better process for choosing a president. We understand what they did in Iowa. The person that devised those rules are complicated. He helped us, Richard Bender helped us set up, he helped us set ours up here. I'm satisfied with what we've done has been good for the country. And I don't mean to denigrate New Hampshire or Iowa, but they shouldn't be the ones choosing who's going to be president.
Okay. Can you talk about your relationship with President Obama? You have had such interlocking legacies, your successes, the Iran deal, healthcare reform, but then you've had your share of clashes with them. What is it about that relationship that still stays strong, and how do you get through some of the tough times?
First of all, Barack Obama and I like each other. I'm terribly impressed with his intelligence. I'm impressed with his work ethic. And he knows that I never have misled him. I told him a long time ago, there's not a chance in the world I'm going to support the crazy trade bill that passed the Senate. I told him that, and while I was the leader, I wouldn't bring it up, and I didn't. I don't like this New Deal out. But he respects me for that. He knows I'm not going to be a cheerleader for these trade deals, but I'm a cheerleader for those things I think he's right. And the mere fact that I don't agree with everything he does doesn't affect our relationship.
Has he gotten used to you and your quick habits of sometimes hanging up the phone without really telegraphing that the conversation is over?
Yes.
When is the last time you spoke with him by the phone?
Well, that's another thing I like about him. He doesn't want to talk a lot. And so I figure most everything you talk about can be resolved in just a few minutes, and there's no need for these long-winded telephone conversations, so I don't have them.
Okay. Some of the rough spots that you had with the West Wing came during some fiscal negotiations, 2011, 2012, that Vice President Biden played a key role in negotiating. Do you feel like there was anything that the Vice President or the White House did that was wrong there, that they could have done better?
Well, Paul, I'm not going to rehash what has taken place in the past. We did what we did. Mm-hmm. I thought I had a way that could have happened a little better, but it didn't work out that way, and I haven't whined about it. I think that we now are in a situation where we must do something. We have a debt ceiling facing us in less than a month. We have to raise the debt ceiling. We have a funding of the government's almost gone. We have till December 11th. And so I've been terribly aware of what's going on in the House of Representatives and the dysfunction not only in the House, but in the Senate, quite frankly, with the Republicans. They can't seem to determine who they want to hurt next. And so I would hope that Speaker Boehner, and you know I've said nice things about Speaker Boehner, the country is going to miss him, and I just hope that he hangs on long enough that we can get these things that are so crucial to the country done before the first year before he leaves.
First of the year, you think he'll stick around that long?
He said he would stay until they find someone to succeed him, and I don't see much in the way now. I know Newt Gingrich has volunteered his services. I don't think that's going to work.
About the vice president, he is still openly considering getting into the race. Should he make the decision soon to try to settle this field?
Joe and I served in Congress many, many decades together. I have wonderful feelings about Joe Biden. He's a man who's overcome a lot. He's very articulate. and I like him. But this is a personal decision, and he's going to have to make that decision. He hasn't called me asking me for any advice. I'm always available. I'd be happy to give it to him or anyone else that calls. His chief of staff, I've talked to Steve Richetti a number of times, and I don't think Joe's made up his mind at this stage.
Okay. You, last year, I think, or the year before, you sold your home in Searchlight, which you called the mining camp that didn't fail. That has been such a part of your persona over the years. What's it like not going home to Searchlight when you come back here?
Well, don't feel too bad. I still own a lot of property out there I'd like to try to sell.
All right. Any willing buyers out there? Contact Senator Reid's staff.
But seriously, Paul, I love my home. It is, so very, very much. I miss it often. The beautiful vistas I had there, but there are a lot of things, especially since I had my injury, the things I can't do that I did do. I can't go just traipsing out through the desert anymore. So the sale came at a good time in our lives, and Landon and I are happy. We're closer to the kids, and as I said, I still own a lot of property out there.
Okay. So when you do retire 15 months from now, what are you going to do next? Are you going to stay in Washington, or are you and Mrs. Reid thinking of permanently moving back here?
Well, I'm certainly not going to give up my roots here in Nevada. I have a home back in Washington. We've been there for a long time now. I own my home in Washington. I own my home here. And I would like to be able to spend a little time in Washington, a lot of time back here. So we'll just see how that works out. I don't know what I'm going to do. I know I'm going to miss my job a lot. I enjoyed all my service back there. But as I've said before, I want to be remembered for my first 34 years, not my last 6. So I feel this is the right time for me to step down.
In terms of your health and your recovery, how is that going? Can you give us an update?
It's really going pretty well. I'm blind in my right eye, and it's affected my depth perception. But I'm going through some therapy now, and I'm doing much, much better. If it's light, I do just fine. If it's a place I've been before, I'm just fine. But if it's a little bit dark, like coming in here, I have to be very careful because my depth perception has been damaged. But I'm doing better. 11 hours of surgery didn't do it, but I'm not feeling sorry for myself. I walked this morning for 3 miles and did a few exercises. So I'm doing fine.
You made the decision to file the lawsuit. What prompted that?
Well, it's interesting. I'm not a litigious guy, but I think, as my lawyer said, let them respond, and I'm going to let them do that. But I got an interesting phone call. 2 weeks ago, last Friday, a man said, "I'm Richard Hinckley." He said, "My dad was president of the Mormon Church. His name was Gordon Hinckley. And he was 95 years old, and he said, 'Richard, I'm still in good health. I want to travel around the world. I want you to go with me before it's too late.'" So they're gone for a long time. They're flying back from Japan. They're out over the Pacific someplace. And Richard Hinckley, had one of those same big straps that I had, and he's doing his exercises. That thing slipped out of his foot, and he's blind in his right eye just like me.
Wow.
So I recommend to anyone that uses these straps, wear safety glasses or don't use them.
Huh. Okay.
So we'll see what happens to the lawsuit.
All right.
I don't need the money, so I'm going to be fine.
Okay. All right. We're getting toward the end. Quick speed round. I want you to give me a 1 or 2 word reaction to a couple people in the news. We'll start off easy. Bryce Harper.
Bryce Harper is one of my favorite people in the world. He's doing what I dreamed of doing as a kid. But the difference is he has some talent I didn't.
Okay. Donald Trump.
I don't want to be like Donald Trump.
Kevin McCarthy.
I don't want to be like Kevin McCarthy. But Kevin McCarthy, I hope this doesn't ruin his life, because he told the truth and it ruined him. The Benghazi thing was, everyone knows that it was just a political travesty, and he admitted it. And then we've got the major who's said the same the last few days. So I don't want to be like Kevin McCarthy, although he's a handsome guy.
How important is it to you to hand off to Chuck Schumer a majority, the Senate majority, and also the role that the race plays here to succeed you?
Well, the race here is looking really good. My friend who's running for the Senate, two-time Attorney General, she was the governor's chief of staff. She was out front on all the mortgage fraud stuff, sexual trafficking. She has a terrific record. She would be the first Latina in the history of the country to come to the Senate. It's about time we had that. Be the first woman from Nevada. So, so I'm devoting a huge amount of my time to making sure, I explained to Senator Schumer, it's so much better to be majority leader than minority leader. And he understands that, and he and I are doing everything we can. It looks really good, Paul. Wisconsin, I think we have that in the bag. I say that seriously. Illinois, I think we're in good shape in Illinois. No matter all the money they're spending against Governor Strickland in Ohio, he's still ahead in all the polls. So I feel good about Strickland. He is a revered figure in that state. We have a primary in Pennsylvania, which I wish we didn't, but we do. But we have the governor supporting Katie McGinney. We have former Governor Rendell. So she's going to win that primary, and I think this is going to be a heavily Democratic state for us come Hillary time, or whoever wins the primary.
Everyone catch that.
We have a very good shot in Missouri. Of course, Governor Hassan has announced in New Hampshire. That looks really good there. We have a Senate candidate in Florida, Murphy, that looks real good. So I feel that it's for us to lose. The way things are right now, we should win, especially with the terrible disruption that's going on around the country caused by the Republicans.